Home sellers are now getting into a phase where they are starting to panic, and the data is proving it. Because what we're seeing happen right now is a situation where inventory is increasing. In fact, it's the highest it's been since early 2020, according to Redfin. And at the same time, you have a lot of sellers that are deciding to start to pull their listings off the market because they're not selling. But obviously that means their house doesn't get sold. A lot of these people believe that, well, we'll just try again in the spring, we'll try again next year, or whatever, try again in a few months. And a lot of these people have already tried several times. As I've showed you guys in different listings, I show you here on my walks, like people will list a property and pull it off the market constantly in hopes that it makes it look like or appear as a new listing, but that never worked. So according to Redfin, we are sitting at the highest level of resale inventory on the US housing market since January of 2020. At the same time, pending home sales fell in January. They dropped 4.2% month over month, which is also the largest decline on a seasonally adjusted basis since August of 2023, when it went down 6.3% year over year. And at the same time, active listings on the market continue to creep up. They climbed 0.3% month over month, and they're actually up 12.9% year over year. For the longest time, people have been complaining that there's no inventory. That is no longer the case, guys. We have plenty of inventory. We are at pre-pandemic levels of inventory right now. And with figures like 13% jumps year over year, that is huge. And that's also a great sign. It's a sign of recovery. It shows you that things are starting to return back to normal. In fact, one of the only things that hasn't caught up back to normal yet, which a lot of you've probably noticed, has been the price. Although in some markets, that is starting to change. We are seeing price declines happen pretty noticeably. But that's not going to last forever either, because as the situation develops and as more listings continue to stay on the market, not every seller has the luxury to just pull the property off the market and try again in 3 to 6 months. You know, a lot of them have to sell right now, which means if that's the case, it needs to be sold for what a buyer is willing to pay for it today. And there's really just a confluence of things happening right now in the housing market that is starting to make the situation better. You know, the mortgage lock-in effect is starting to wither away as more and more homeowners have interest rates that are above 6%. We have homes sitting on the market for a long time. The typical home sold in January sat on the market for 56 days. That's a week longer than just 1 year ago. And it's also the longest amount of time it took to sell since January of 2020. You have demand dropping through the floor right now. At the same time, listings are piling up. Existing home sales, they fell 1.7% in January. We still have 30-year mortgage rates sitting at close to 7% right now, and are likely going to go up from here, considering what's happening with the 10-year Treasury right now, and inflation is continuing to go up. So that's not really great news for mortgage rates. We're in a situation right now where we have more and more real estate deals falling apart. We had home purchase cancellations also at the highest rate since 2017, guys. Think about that. That is just insane. We had 41,000 home purchase agreements canceled, which was about 14.3% of homes that went under contract last month. You know, that's an increase of 13.4% from just 1 year ago. I mean, these figures are staggering. Honestly, like, these are some major changes happening relatively fast now. Like, things have been kind of very slow with the housing market. We haven't seen a very big change in a while, but now things are really starting to change in a big way. This is all happening at a time when there's a tremendous amount of economic uncertainty. People don't know what's going to happen with the tariffs. People don't know what's going to happen with the return to office mandates. Nobody knows what's going to happen with mortgage rates. You know, there's a lot of uncertainty. The layoffs have been rampant over the past couple of years and just continue to be as the start of this year. Also, a lot of home sellers are thinking that, you know what, we've already kind of passed the top of the market. It's time for me to sell now and put my money into an alternative investment, whatever that might be, because honestly, there's not much good to invest in right now. Everything is at all-time high prices. So if you're a home buyer out there right now looking for a place, this is the best time to be a buyer literally since January of 2020, guys. I'm not talking about prices, I'm talking about the rest of the situation. We're talking about the inventory situation. We're talking about your ability to negotiate as a home buyer. We're talking about your options that are available, different things like that. You know, that is helping people right now. Now, is it a great time to buy? I don't think so. I think people should still be waiting on the sidelines for better opportunities and better deals to come along. But at the same time, not everybody can wait, right? Everybody has their own timeline. Everybody has their own things happening in life. But it's a much better time to be a buyer right now than it was, let's say, 2 or 3 years ago. So here's the other thing too, guys. People are being misled by some of the data, because one of the biggest data points is always where are prices going, right? And that's something that's still a standout feature in the housing market, right? Home prices are still up right now about 4.1% year over year, according to the January Redfin data. But here's something I want people to take a look at. That doesn't really mean a whole lot, because let's zoom out a little bit and put this into a little more historical context. What does that actually mean? Even though home prices are technically up 4% year over year, if we just go back to 2022, prices are actually lower today than they were 2.5, almost 3 years ago, guys. Right now, median home price is $418,000, right? But back then, it was like $438,000. But they're lower today than they were then, is the point. Okay, so home prices have remained relatively flat, actually, when you look at the past 2.5, 3 years. So the year over year number doesn't matter that much because of the seasonal fluctuation. You can see just by looking at Redfin's own graph here that there's waves in prices. And if you just kind of draw a straight line through there, prices haven't really come up or down much at all in the past 3 years. And let's not forget, what drove up prices during the pandemic? It was a lack of supply fueled by really high demand and a lot of extra money pumped into the economy, right? That's what fueled the demand. But now the tables have reversed. Now we have pretty low demand with supply increasing. So the same mechanisms that were able to drive prices up are the same mechanisms that's going to drive prices down. Now, we might not all agree on the state of the economy or the state of the housing market. One thing we can all definitely agree on lately is that way too many companies have way too much of our personal information. And that's why today's video is sponsored by Delete Me. Delete Me is a hands-free subscription service that will remove your personal information that's being sold online. Delete Me's privacy experts remove you from hundreds of data brokers all year long. I've personally been using Delete Me for over a year now, and it has been fantastic. They have removed my personal information from hundreds of different data broker websites out there. Everything from my marital status to my address to my relatives' information. Pretty much anything you can think of that these companies can get their hands on. So if you're like me and you want to start taking back your online privacy, I highly suggest signing up with Delete Me. Make sure you get 20% off your Delete Me subscription by joining using my link down below at joindeleteme.com/boardandarrow, or you can use the QR code on the screen. Now, the other side of what's happening in the housing market, like I mentioned at the beginning, is as more home buyers are failing to show up to purchase any of these homes for sale, you're seeing sellers remove listings from the market. And what's interesting about this is even though we're seeing a pretty sizable amount of listings being removed, we still have inventory at the highest level since January 2020. So imagine if those listings were not getting removed, okay? Think about that while we're talking about this. In December, the amount of delistings, they call it, right? The amount of people took the home off the market were about 73,000. So we would have an additional 73,000 homes for sale on the market right now if it wasn't for those delistings. These delistings tend to go up in the wintertime anyways because activity is relatively low, and a lot of these people will most likely try again in the spring or summer months. So this inventory that was just delisted is not permanent, guys. That's going to come back on the market when sellers think it's a better time to sell. But newsflash for anybody who just missed the information we just talked about here, the best time to sell was already 2.5 to 3 years ago. But what's notable about these delistings is, that was a 64% increase in delistings from the previous December in 2023. So that's pretty notable. You can tell by this chart here, you can see that spike at the end, like it went up quite a bit. But here's the thing. These sellers pull their home off the market temporarily, and they think that they're going to have better luck to just relist the home in the spring. That's pretty much what everybody thinks. That's what they basically try to do. It's like, all right, well, I can wait 3 to 6 months. I'm not in a hurry. There'll be more buyers out looking then. But what this also shows you is that a lot of the inventory that hit the market in 2024 went unsold, because they wouldn't have to delist the property if it actually sold, right? And this also indicates that there's actually a lot of demand on the sell side now more than the buy side. When we're starting to see listings outpace the demand to purchase, and sellers actually have to pull homes off the market because they're not selling, that is proof right there that the market has now shifted in an entirely opposite direction of where it has been going. So really the only thing that's missing right now from this market is sellers' mentality catching up with reality, okay? And the ones who are selling right now are the ones who are with the program. And the ones who are delisting their homes are the ones who haven't fully gotten the memo yet. But here's the problem. A lot of these sellers believe, well, instead of accepting a lowball offer and selling my property for less than I want to, I'll just wait a little bit and I should be able to get my price later, because real estate always goes up, right? Well, look at the chart we just looked at. Real estate hasn't been going up at all. It's been staying flat. So you're not getting any more or any less than you were just 3 years ago in many cases. Whatever's happening in the new construction market right now is also a telltale sign of what's happening throughout the housing market. Home builders are having to lure buyers through the door with extremely low mortgage rates in the 4% range for mortgage rate buy downs. They have to give you all kinds of free upgrades on the interior of the home, and they're having to lower the price. They have to do all three of those things to get somebody to purchase one of their homes right now. In fact, the number of completed and ready to occupy brand new houses sitting on the market right now is up 46% from just a year ago, guys. And you still see stories talking about how inventory is low and there's an inventory shortage. There isn't. We have 118,000 brand new homes for sale throughout the country right now, just on the brand new market. And we have over 1.5 million resale homes available for sale. There is no shortage. But the disconnect is, like I mentioned a minute ago, is that sellers haven't caught up with reality. A lot of them still believe that they can get, yesterday's prices today. But buyers are tapped out. The economy has taken many turns for the worse over the past couple of years. And you're seeing more and more people being laid off, more and more people charging up the credit card to survive. How on earth are these people going to be able to pay top dollar for your house? They can't. And here's the thing. If this trend continues, if things just continue in the direction that they're going right now, where the amount of inventory creeps up, the amount of unsold homes on the market creeps up, then eventually this is going to be bad news for sellers, because they're going to have no choice but to either sell for less or just stick with your house. You're not going to sell it then. We talked about this in a video a few weeks back, but a lot of these big Wall Street landlords are severely undervaluing the housing market right now. You have the share prices for these big corporate landlords like Invitation Homes and American Homes for Rent, where their share prices are trading at a 33 and 22% discount of their net asset values. That's Wall Street saying that, hey, we think that home prices as they stand today are overvalued by about 30%. So if home prices are sitting at around $430,000 on a median basis across the country, that means Wall Street believes that they're only worth about 300 grand. That is a huge discount. And to me, it looks like we're heading into a situation where as soon as we get some really bad economic news, like as soon as maybe the government admits that we're in a recession or have been for quite some time now, or the Fed, gets pushed up against the wall, or maybe they even have to start raising interest rates because inflation is going up on a pretty substantial basis right now. It just went up 0.5 percentage point month over month, guys. On an annualized basis, that's 6%. They said they were going to get it down to 2%. So that's been a huge lie and a huge miss. And they may be in a situation where they could be forced to raise interest rates at some point later this year if these numbers continue in that direction. And what's going to stop it, right? What's going to stop inflation from continuing to rise right now? Nothing, as far as I can tell. Here's a couple other indicators for you to show you how much the market is shifting right now. You have the amount of homes that are selling over asking price right now falling off of a cliff. Just take a look at this chart from Redfin going back to 2022. You know, it's almost non-existent now at this point. The numbers are lower than they've been in years for the amount of homes selling over asking price, but still 22% of homes are selling over asking price because there are markets where that still happens. You know, this is the data. But at the same time, when we take a look at this chart here, you can see we have 19.1% of homes on the market with price cuts right now. So things are going in the opposite direction with that too. More and more homes on the market with price cuts, less and less of them selling for over asking price. Another indicator showing you that the housing market has flipped. Another interesting story that was shared with me recently is this. Now that the Trump administration has been gutting a lot of these governmental agencies and trying to cut back on our national spending, one thing that they did is the amount of listings of homes for sale absolutely explode in Washington, D.C. Take a look at this right here, guys. You can see almost every single listing on this map is a brand new listing. And what that tells a lot of us, or a lot of people are assuming from this information, is that all of these homes that are for sale over there were purchased with our taxpayer money. You know, we've been paying all this money. There's a ton of fraud and corruption in these governmental agencies, and a lot of this money was likely siphoned away in order to purchase this real estate. And now that the money's going to be drying up, these guys aren't going to have the money to maintain and pay for these homes anymore. So all of a sudden, wow, they're all for sale. What are the odds? So we're going to have to keep an eye on what happens with home prices and inventory in Washington, D.C. in particular. These government cuts are already having a major impact on the market over there. So there's also some additional data that came out over the past week or so that shows you what I've been telling you here on the channel is the state of the market right now. The only people who are buying homes are people who are basically wealthy and have the cash to spare. And this is how we know this, okay? According to the most recent data, let's take Florida for example. In West Palm Beach, 49% of all home sales were cash, okay? In Jacksonville, it was 46.2% of all home sales were cash. So that is a huge number. That's almost half, basically, of all homes being purchased in cash. A lot of people can't even afford to buy a house when you finance, let alone buy a home in cash. So that is huge. Now in Miami, for example, we had 40.7% of homes sell for cash. In Fort Lauderdale, it was about 40%. In Orlando, it was about 40%. Tampa was 38%. All cash deals have been a staple in Florida for a long time, guys. And I'm sure they have figures like this on other states too. But the point I'm trying to make right now is home sales are at 30-year lows. That's undisputable facts. That's evidence right now of what's happening throughout the market. But the people who are buying have money. Okay, they can afford to buy at these prices. They don't necessarily care if there's a downturn coming in the near future, because a lot of people who are buying now can't afford that downturn. They can afford to hang on and wait this out. Whereas the average person that's trying to, scrape together everything they have to purchase a house in today's market and try to hang on, that might not be the best strategy. Redfin says the buyers who commonly buy with cash are people who recently sold a home, people who are in competitive markets, home flippers, instant buy companies, and investors. So those are all people with money. Like I just said, if you're an investor, you have money. If you just sold a house and got a big windfall, you have money. If you're a home flipper, you probably have money. That's the common theme here. And I know a lot of people will try to emulate what people that have a lot of money do in hopes that that will make them wealthy as well, but realize that holding real estate is very expensive. I've gone over here on the channel countless times how expensive it can be to hang on to a house in today's environment with property taxes and insurance and all the other major expenses that come along with owning a home. And you have to be ready for that. You have to have money too. You can't just jump into this without having a sizable amount of cash. After you make the down payment, after you close on the home, you still need to have a sizable nest egg ready for an emergency, ready for something to happen, because it's only going to be a matter of time before it does. And this is why we see the delinquency rates on people who have VA loans and FHA loans, you know, sitting at 13% right now, because people can't afford to keep up with these expenses. They didn't have any money to buy the house to begin with. What makes you think that they're going to have money to continue to keep up with the rising cost of owning that house? Everything I just told you in today's video is great news if you're a buyer, if you're somebody who has been waiting to buy and, you know, just kind of frustrated with the market. Things are turning in your favor right now. Not everywhere, but the overall market, things are turning. So there's going to be more opportunities pop up across the country over the next several years as things continue to shift in this direction. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure you subscribe to the channel. And if you don't want to wait for my next video to come out, check out this one on the screen right over here, and I'll see you in the next one.